So, has been hotel theories. Some of my favorite theories to watch nowadays because, I mean, season one just ended, and we have a lot of characters that are still unexplained, and people just like theorizing. Also, I love this whole, you know, odd looking Lucifer. Like, I don't think that's how it was at the garden. I think when Lucifer went to the garden and to offer the apple to Eve, I think it was very much like a hey, you take this and you'll have true free will because right now God says you can do whatever you want. And yet he's saying, you can't do this. You can't touch the fruit on this tree. Why? If you had free will, you'd be able to touch the fruit, and eat the fruit from this tree. So if you want true free will, all you have to do is take a bite. So I don't think he went into it with bad intentions. I think he just truly wanted Eve to have free will. Um, but this is Anime Hype House, and this is the craziest Eve theory in Hazbin Hotel. I should do like an August the Duck kind of thing. The craziest Eve theory on the internet. Because clickbait. Actually, I'll probably title that the craziest Eve theory or Eve Lilith theory in Hazbin Hotel on the internet. But we'll
A new Hazbin Hotel theory is taking the fanbase by storm, and it's arguing the idea that Lilith is actually Eve in disguise. So if you didn't know, this theory surrounds the idea of the Hazbin Hotel cards, and if you didn't know, in the Hazbin Hotel cards, when you look at the Lilith card, it actually looks a lot like Eve. Now if you think about it, this would explain quite a few things. One of the biggest ones being Lucifer and Lilith split up. It's explained that they're madly in love, yet they randomly split up with no real reason given. It would also further
Okay, so even though it's a cartoon, Vivian apparently loves adding real world issues and family dynamics into her characters. But apparently, from what I hear, she's extremely good at doing it. And so, if we're going through it that way, we have the Morning Stars, who I think Lilith and Lucifer really were madly in love with each other. And I think even now, even with her in heaven, chilling out there, I think she still does truly care for Lucifer. But she left because of this guy. Now, I'm not saying he was. I truly do not believe that Lucifer was ever abusive. It's not going to be that kind of separation where, oh, I had to, get away because of that. No, I don't think he ever hit her, and I don't think he was ever verbally abusive. He was just a man who fell into this deep depression and did not want to snap out of it. Lilith, who unified hell with her song, with her voice, because it was that beautiful and that powerful. I guarantee you, so many nights, you know, Lucifer and Lilith are lying in bed together, and I can just imagine Lilith just, you know, next to him, holding him, and her singing her just a song, anything, just to try to snap him out of whatever depression he had. And over the eons that they were together, it just didn't work. Charlie comes along and it's like, well, I'll stay with this guy for my daughter's sake. And even then, I still think obviously even now, I still think she truly loves the guy. I don't think she has any, apart from the depression, I don't think she'll be like, oh yeah, he was this, he was that. No, I think even now she still considers him probably the most beautiful person she's ever met. But I she just couldn't take it anymore. She just couldn't be with a man who just didn't want to snap out of whatever depression he was in. He would stay in his workshop all the time, probably, crawl into bed once in a while. She would try singing to him, and just nothing seemed to work. And if your voice is so powerful that it can unite hell, and that voice isn't able to snap him out of his depression, what possibly could? So it's the matter of she just didn't want to deal with it anymore. Charlie's clearly older, so it's like, okay, well, I don't have to really be here for my kid anymore. I can leave and keep in contact with her. Although that kind of changes because of another thing that happens. But yeah, she just didn't want to be with him anymore because she couldn't stand being, she just couldn't handle being around someone. He was not the same Lucifer that she met, the one who had fallen, who was still so free-willed and free-spirited and strong and just charming. He was a broken, depressed man who sat in his workshop all day, barely coming out, I'm sure. You know, he was the king of hell. He is hell itself. And yet she's the one who made hell what it is. Because he wasn't doing it. He's just a broken shell of a man. So
explain how Lilith can get into heaven and why she sided with heaven. You got to remember, she built up hell. That's a direct opposition to heaven, yet somehow they let her back in. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
actually makes perfect sense. Think about Adam. The guy's a complete douchebag. He's a douchebag. He's the douchiest douche who's ever douched. And he was in heaven. Why? Because he was one of God's first creations on earth. Now, Lilith, if you believe things, if you truly believe that mythology, in, you know, Book of Enoch and all that, saying that Lilith was the first true woman, and she wasn't born like Eve. She wasn't born from Adam's rib. She was born from the same earth or the same dirt as Adam. So basically, woof, human number one, woof, human number two. One's male, one's female. So with authority, she has the same authority as Adam. And the same reason why, no matter what Adam did, you couldn't do anything to him because he was protected. He was protected simply because of that divine ordainment, because of God. It's like, he was my first creation on earth, so he's got special privileges. Well, that's the same thing. And this is where with Charlie comes in, because after Lilith and Lucifer split up, she's like, okay, well, where else am I going to go? I can maybe try to go to heaven, thinking that, oh, I'll talk to my daughter and see her and all that. But then she gets to heaven, probably has to talk to Adam. You know, it's her ex-husband. She kind of has to talk to him, even though she fled because of him, because she didn't want to basically be subservient to him, and because he's a freaking douchebag. And he's like, yeah, whatever, babe, you can come back in. And she probably mentioned Charlie or Lucifer, but he's like, oh yeah, one more thing, you can't talk to anyone down there. If you're gonna be here, you're gonna do like redemption or something, but you can't have any connection with anyone in hell. So that means your ex-husband or that brat of a kid of yours. I'm sure that was a condition in order to stay in heaven. They were already like, Charlie was already saved basically because of Lucifer from exterminations, but Lilith, when she went to heaven, is like, yeah, you gotta, if you're gonna be here, it's for redemption. You're gonna be redeemed, because even though you were there, you're guilty by association, really. I mean, you didn't offer Eve the apple, Lucifer did. You were just kind of there. So we can redeem you and, you know, get back in God's good grace, but you're gonna have to cut off ties from hell. That means your ex-husband, your daughter. So I think that's why in 7 years since Lucifer and Lilith have split up, that's why she hasn't contacted Charlie. Does Lucifer know this? I don't know, but we know Charlie is constantly calling her mom, to no avail. To no avail. It's, you know, she calls, no answer. And I'm sure from most days, you know, she's kind of gotten over the fact that she's not able to see her daughter anymore. But when her daughter calls, it probably reminds her and pains her that she can't speak to her daughter, because she does love Charlie. She does love Charlie. And I'm sure walking out like that did hurt her a lot. She just could not be in the same place as Lucifer anymore, because he was just a broken man, and she couldn't deal with it, because if her song couldn't help, nothing was going to help.
It would also explain why on the card Lilith doesn't have a last name, and on top of that is holding her finger to her mouth as if she's trying to hide a secret. So I'm gonna ask, do any of...
Well, Lilith and, I mean, Adam didn't have a last name. Eve didn't have a last name. Lilith didn't get a last name until she married Adam. Or Adam, till Lucifer married, you know, Lilith married Lucifer, and then it became Lilith Morningstar. But when they were in the garden, they didn't have last names. It was Adam and Eve, Adam and Lilith, They didn't have last names. But the card shows a tall woman dressed in purple, uh, kind of like what we see here. Tall woman dressed in purple. Um, there's this theory. I saw one person say that Eve and Lilith are the same person. That like their souls are together. Uh, if it's not something that's been introduced or hinted at so far, I know it's only been one season, but if it hasn't been hinted at, I don't think. Same thing with transformation. We know Lucifer can shapeshift, but when he shapeshifts into other animals, he still retains his red and white coloring. So two souls inhabiting one, stuff like that. I don't think that's going to be a thing. In the song, more than anything, we aren't showing Lilith's face, despite the fact of all the pictures all over the walls and stuff. Yeah, I wonder if, as part of their punishment, Eve and Lilith were forced to share the same body, and Eve is the real big bad. Now, I do believe that Eve is the big bad. There's a reason, but so Lilith's face. 3 reasons, 3 simple reasons. 1, it's a common trope in storytelling. Look at anime. Anime does it all the time when they have flashbacks. No faces. You have one person or a crowd of people. A lot of times, if that flashback isn't about that person, faceless. And the song, more than anything, it's not about Lilith. It's about Charlie and Lucifer. So it could have been anyone else. It wouldn't have mattered. They would have been faceless as well. It's just a common storytelling trope. Second, again, it was about Lucifer and Charlie. It was about them, coming together again, realizing that they've always been good enough for each other, that Lucifer didn't have to worry about, oh, how am I going to live up to my daughter's expectations of me, and then Charlie, like, oh, how am I ever going to live up to what my dad's been doing? My dad's the king of hell here, and how am I ever going to live up to that? But then they realized that they've always been good enough for each other, and that neither of them cared about any of that. And it was about them. Third, if you do want to go for a storytelling reason, because she hasn't seen her mom in 7 years. Lilith is faceless because that's kind of how she is to Charlie now. She's faceless. She calls her, she doesn't answer. She hasn't seen her in 7 years. So even though she loves her mom and she still wants her to make her proud, she even says, I'll make you proud, mom, and this and that. She's faceless. She hasn't seen her in 7 years. So also there's the, oh, well, she's wearing a pearl necklace, and then in the final scene of this the episode of the season, she's wearing a different necklace, so it's really Eve. Now, how many people do you know in real life who are still wearing jewelry given to them by their ex? Because I'm sure that was a necklace given to her by Lucifer. How many people do you know are wearing jewelry given to them by an ex? I'm sure it happens. But in general sort of way, not many people are going around wearing jewelry. Now, I believe she still has the necklace, and she will put it back on at some point after her and Lucifer reconnect, which I think they will. She'll put on that necklace again as a kind of, at first, I think it's going to be like is she truly wanting to be with him again, or is it part of a plan? But I think by her putting on that necklace again will be a signify that she is truly ready to be with him again. Because by the time she comes back, Lucifer has already been reinvigorated. He's not the same Lucifer that she left. This broken man. He now has confidence. He now has a purpose. He now has desire to protect Charlie and support her and this and that. He's no longer broken. And I talked about that with when they were singing, when he pulls out his seraphim wings and how confident he is now. That's that signifies he's not the same man. He's been reborn, essentially, reinvigorated, renewed, however you want to put it. So I think she has the necklace and she keeps it because she can't let go of it. I mean, she does love him. So I think they will get back together, and her putting on the necklace again will signify that she's serious, that she does want to be part of his life. Um, Now Eve, I believe this is Eve. Now this I've talked about this before. This is Rue, or rather, I think it's a code name Rue. Why is that? Because if we knew who this character was, it would spoil everything. Now, this is a character Vivian has said she's very, very excited to get into, but it's not going to be for a very long time. Why? Because this is the root of all evil. This is Eve. This is what happened to Eve after the fruit and being punished. And the 10,000 years or however long she's been sucking in souls and siphoning souls to become stronger. So it's actually pretty balancing in a way. So, oh, not really balanced. So Lilith is the queen of hell. She's in authority, she's much above of Eve, because again she was the first true woman. She was created from the same dirt as Adam, or same earth, not from Adam's rib, which would be you're a creation of God's creation. So in a sense, really, Eve was probably more akin to Adam's child or something, being born of his DNA, his body, whereas Adam and Lilith were both born from the earth itself. But I think we have chains, and I think she's pretty much chained to this, to a spot, and this is her punishment for releasing evil into the world. And that's why her name is just Rue. Because if we knew this was Eve, it would spoil everything. This is the big bad of the show. This is the big bad. This is the reason for everything. She's the one who bit into the apple. She's the one who let evil into the world. She's the big bad, and she's been siphoning souls for tens of thousands of years, however long it's been. And this is the person that they're going to have to fight. Heaven and hell are going to have to work together to fight her, and I think it's not going to work. I think it's going to come down to these three. The first true woman and a seraphim. Also their daughter. And those three are going to be the ones who defeat Rue, or Eve. So Eve is the real big bad. Yes, I believe that Eve is the big bad, and this is a concept art of what she's possibly going to look like. Obviously, it's always subject to change, but I think she will keep this general, very evil aesthetic, this very like eldritch in nature, because eldritch terrors, basically like evil incarnate, the mat and all the evils of the world. If we were getting into Greek mythology, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like Pandora or something, looking like she's releasing all the evils into the world. But I don't think we're gonna have any Greek things going on. But yeah, I think this is Eve, and that's the reason why she's just referred to as Rue. Because if we knew who this truly was, it would spoil everything. I also saw this, and it's actually kind of interesting. If Lucifer and Lilith were married for a freaking long time in hell, then why didn't they have their first child until the 19th century? Charlie's only 200. And I think it's simple. Another simple reason. Hell wasn't built in a day. It took a very long time to build up hell where it is now. And once hell was established, I think Lilith and Lucifer kind of realized, okay, we've got hell established. Let's, we can kind of settle down. And Charlie was born. But of course, who's to say that it was their first child? Lilith, in mythology and everything, is a cursed woman, and weren't like the first 100 of her kids, weren't they like killed by angels or something? So I can see that being this case where Charlie wasn't the first child, but like all their children were killed in the exterminations, or she miscarried, unfortunately, and Charlie is very much the rainbow child, the one who survived, the one who's powerful, and There's also another one saying that even though it's not a theory, it's just them being together, very much like Morticia and Gomez, Adam's family, and with the gothic appearance and stuff like that. And apparently Vivian has confirmed that. She was the one who said it, that they are very much like Morticia and Gomez. I don't know if someone can confirm or deny that. A little excerpt or something that it's like, oh yeah, they're Michelle, Morticia and Gomez, because I mean that's what they would that's what they kind of remind me of, very much like Morticia and Gomez. Um, but it is possible that they did have more children and just the curse of Lilith essentially, for you know leaving Adam and stuff like that. Um, she was cursed, and like the first 100 of her kids were just killed by angels in the exterminations. But I again, I don't believe uh I was wondering if Sleep Mom's face Eve already assumed Lilith's identity. Again, I don't believe they're inhabiting the same body. And I reply to all this stuff. Um but I don't think Lilith and Eve are the same person. I don't think they're inhabiting the same body. I don't think Eve is transformed. I think this is Eve right here, and she is chained to wherever she is in hell. And throughout the tens of thousands of years she's been there, she's been siphoning souls to her. So while in authority, Lilith is more powerful, power wise, like actual power, and she's going to be an instance where heaven and hell have no choice but to work together. Because I think this is going to be something that she's going to be so powerful after all the souls she's collected that heaven and hell have no choice but to work together. And hopefully by that case, Sarah has wisened up and realized extermination is bad and that they need to work together with hell, not just in this situation, but just for the existence of heaven and hell. They need to work together rather than being against each other. Um, I mean, I can see some pretty important characters dying during this fight. Possibly Alistair. People think this is where he got his powers from. You see the whole red aesthetic and the tentacles, which he also dressed in red. He's got the tentacles going on, so people think that this is who he made his deal with. So I can see him dying in the fight against her, and not because and that's kind of he'll be redeemed in everyone's eyes. I think if she kills someone, I think they're dead for good. Like Alistair, I don't think he'd end up in heaven. I think he would just cease to exist, and I don't think he would fight not only to gain his freedom. By this point in the show, I think he'd fight because he genuinely cares about everyone. Um, so I think he would be taken out, and I think in order to take her out for good, I said this the last time, I think we're gonna have these two giving up their physical forms and imbuing their very essence, their very life force, their very power into Charlie. Because she's born of angel and human. So she's technically what, a Nephilim? But she's already extremely powerful on her own. But having the very essence of her father, who is a seraphim, the highest order of angel, highest choir of angels, close to God as one can be, and the first true woman, that is going to boost her tremendously in power. And I think it's going to be like I said, I pretty much said it as like a Naruto type situation, where even though they're physically gone, they're not actually gone. Pretty much it's going to be like they're sealed inside her almost, and then she can kind of still look in herself and and kind of talk to them, but they're just not going to be there anymore physically. So she'll still have her parents, that just not there physically. But I can see them in like the final season, after they've reunited with Charlie, after they've talked about their problems and You know, that one final act to save their child. Together, mother and father sacrifice themselves for their child together at the same time. Um, and you know, as they're slowly fading or whatever, it's like, you know, we're not really gone. You know, like a cliched line. It's like we're never really gonna be gone. We'll be inside you. And it's like a Naruto thing where it's like the very essence of that thing is inside, like of Kurama is in him, is in Naruto, and I think that's going to be what it's. Except they're not going to be, you know, behind a giant freaking cage, because they're not threatening to rip her body apart, and take over. Also, at some point, I think I said this before, and I think I have more of an idea of how I want to see it. Lilith, when she comes back and her and Charlie have that moment. You know, we've seen Charlie and Lucifer, you know, together with the whole more than anything, you know, singing that. We saw Charlie and Vaggie with a very soft, very innocent version, a reprise of more than anything. I want, especially Lilith, how beautiful and powerful her voice is supposed to be. I want Charlie to be crying or something to where she's just, and Lilith just uh and then she just starts singing it. Nothing from Charlie. Nothing from Charlie at all. Charlie does not sing. I want this to be a very beautiful moment of a mother who is now back in her child's life after 7 years. I want her holding her daughter who is just in tears. And I want to hear a reprise of the reprise. And when I say that, very similar to Vaggie and Charlie's version, very soft, very innocent sounding, very loving, but with the kind of love this time that a mother has for a child. And again, you know, just like a darker setting, a darker room, you know, maybe she's crying in bed or something, but just her mom just holds her and just starts singing more than anything to her, you know, in her own, you know, whatever she has to say, but eventually leading up to more than anything. And for Charlie, I think that would be perfect. You had it with her father, you know, you had more than anything with her father, you know, so the reconnection between father and daughter. You had the reprise, which was a connection of, you know, two lovers. And then what would make it more perfect than having it from mother to daughter? That's what I want to see. Charlie not saying a thing, her just crying, and her just kind of possibly falling to sleep because her mom's voice is so powerful and beautiful. But her mom holding her as she's crying, and she just starts singing more than anything. And for me, perfection. But Eve, yeah, I this is Eve. I think her character, the way she looks, is gonna change a bit, to fit more of what the show looks like now, because the animation, everything's definitely a lot different than when we got the first pilot, however many years ago. Um, so I think it's subject to change, but I think we have a generally good idea what Eve is going to look like. Eve was shown to have short hair, and if it wasn't flowing in front, it would be about where it would be with Eve. Like, where is it? Like maybe shoulder length, or like almost like mine. You know, pretty much how long hers would be. Um, Lilith is always shown to have extremely long hair, but I don't think Eve and Lilith are one person. I don't think Eve is cosplaying as Lilith. I think Eve is chained up somewhere in hell, and we've yet to see her, which is why this person is named Rue, because it would give away everything. This is the big bad of the show. This is who threatens everything. And if you really think about it, Hell of a Boss takes place in the same hell that we see in Hazbin Hotel. So this woman is threatening everything in hell. And maybe that'd be the one time we actually see like a crossover between the characters in Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss, because Eve's presence doesn't just threaten the Pride Ring, which is what they're in. She threatens all of hell. And again, she threatens all of heaven, which is why heaven and hell are going to have to work together. But in the end, it's going to be them. It's going to be them who defeat her because it would just make the most sense. It would just make the most sense. But yeah, that's, I just saw that and I was like, yeah, I don't think Lilith and Eve are the same person, and all these things that people are pointing out are just easily explained away with like real world logic. The necklace, the faceless thing, it's all explained with the Lucifer and Lilith breaking up. It's all explained with real world logic, and the fact that we know that Vivian loves to create these types of characters with such great dynamics that are based in real world issues and uh, subjects and stuff like that. Like Angel, the whole idea of domestic abuse and being in a relationship is toxic for you and you want to get away from it, but you can't because you become so used to it. In his song when he says, I disassociate, disappear, how that's what it's like when people are going through SA or whatever that they kind of just like remove themselves from their own body for that time and out of their mind. And they just go along with all the movements and it just becomes like second nature. That's because they're so used to it. So she's not afraid of hitting those heavy topics. And I think in this case, again, it's as simple as Lilith just didn't want to deal with Lucifer's bullshit. But Eve being the same person, no, this is Eve. Maybe not as we're going to see her. Actually, I hope she looks more evil than this. Like, as if that's even possible. But I think it's possible. But if you have other theories, I'd love to hear them. That's why they're theories, because right now, the only one who knows the truth is Vivian. And I seriously doubt I'll ever have a chance to actually talk to her about any of this. And even if I did, not like she would tell me anything about this. So, but remember, that's just a theory, a film theory, and cut. No, anyway, yeah, your theories, love to hear them. Do you hope to see Lilith and Lucifer get back together? Do you, when Lilith finally does come back, does that her singing to Charlie sound like something that would be done based on how the show is and Vivian, how she makes things? Anything you can think of, setup, song, theories about Eve or whatever you can think of. Let me know. That's going to do it for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.